Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.
And kaboom, we are live.
Is it history?
It is 9:00.
Nice.
9:00.
It's an historic episode of Another Cup of Coffee. We're actually on time.
The on time episode. I might even rename it. You know, like Friends used to have, like, you know, the this episode, the that episode, and then they had the on time. Yes, the one where they were on time. Right.
Yeah.
See,
I want to.
Go ahead.
Go, Luis. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, typically, Mexicans tend to be late, but I don't know how I make you guys on time, so I apologize. That's what their stereotype. Like, it's always like, yeah, we'll be there. It's like, I told you 2 hours ago that I'll be there. I need you text me every 10 minutes. We'll be there. You know what I mean? So that's our.
Well, years ago, this is years ago when Shamar was first really going out on his own doing rock and rap stuff after he sort of got past his trad jazz phase. He had written a song for the Saints, and he wanted to send it to Tom Benson to see if he could get him used at the Dome. And they needed to have a photo along with the thing they were sending in. He and his friend D1, who's an excellent rapper. So I got him a photographer, friend of mine, and we said, meet us at the City Hall parking garage on the top floor. The Dome will be behind us, and about 5:30, if you meet us, we'll get the sunset, we'll get magic hour. The pictures are going to be stunning. So he says great, and D1 says great, and we go to the City Hall parking lot. Me and the photographer, and 5:30 came and went, and there's no sign of Shamar D1. And finally, at like 10 minutes to 6, Shamar rolls up. And I'm like, dude, we said 5:30, the sun's already set, and we can't even do the picture here now. We got to go like to the other side of the Superdome, go up on the Dome Plaza now. So let's get this, tell D1 to meet us over there. So he pulls out his cell phone, and he calls D1. He goes, hey, D, nah, we ain't meeting here no more. We're going to meet over at the Superdome at 10 minutes till. We on white people time now, all right? This is corporate America shit.
Oh my God. Nice. Yes, corporate America stuff. There we go. So, Luis, here you are.
Here you are. Before we get into,
I guess I represent the man.
I wanna. Before we get to the superhero review, I wanna lift my mug to my dear friend Dale Trigera, who passed away yesterday. After complications from heart surgery. He was the owner of Chikiwawa, and Chikiwawa was a very unique club that sprung up after the flood through Dale's hard work. It was a club where the likes of Joe Ely would come and play, or John Doe. There was no venue like it in New Orleans that catered to sort of the Americana thing, like Chikiwawa did early on. Personally, Dale was my friend, and for 5 years, Friday night was my night. It was home. It was where I held court and told stories. I was often wonderful, and he would tell me, and sometimes I was not good, and he would say, you didn't sing well tonight. What the fuck's wrong? And he was a grouch. He was one of the funniest people I ever met. He loved people and was also intimidated by their very presence. He did so much for the musical community of New Orleans. And I just wanted to lift my glass and say that I loved him, and I was am grateful to the time he gave me at Chikiwawa. It was 5 wonderful years, and I didn't stop until my wife split, and I just left New Orleans for a couple of years. But every time I came back, he was there to either make fun of me or to encourage me. But both were with love, always.
I didn't, I just really kind of, when I moved back to New Orleans, I had some event that I went and did in Chikiwawa, and I remember him telling me that it's like, you're not going to be able to do this, Mike. You're not going to be able to put that stuff in the PA. I don't know what you're trying to do here. I think Dave Malone had called me down there. Somebody had called me down there, and I was doing a Dave Malone event, and he just couldn't get what he wanted. You know how Dale was. Dale was like, "That's what I got. What's wrong with you? You can't deal with that? Come on, are you a professional or not?" And
He was so
yeah. So anyway, I came down there. I sort of pushed things a little bit further and ran things a little different. And he was actually surprised because you're one of the few guys who came in here and actually did make it sound good and did do these things. And that sparked a friendship. I guess he was like, all right, this guy's for real. I can be friends with this guy. Because half the guys that came in just screwed up his stuff. And then they would leave and he would be like, So long story short, we became friends. And he asked me to come help him produce that show during COVID. And we did a lot of shows together. I think we did 30 shows that we put up. And it was one of the things he always wanted to do. Film was always, he would tell me stories about his acting days and
I loved his acting
time in New
stories,
York.
man.
Yes. And so, and he was very proud of what he had done with Algiers Point and also with, Chikiwawa. And so anyway, we developed around March or something. He had told me that he'd gotten a wake-up call from the doctor and there was some health issues that he had to back off from the show for a bit, but he was going to come back in September, open the show, and we were going to, open the club, and we were going to get back to work. And he was in the meantime, he was going to concentrate on his health. And anyway, I spoke to some of the family yesterday, and it's just, it is tragic. I felt like he was always in a place in his life where he was getting to he was fulfilling things that he wanted to do. It was, so that's a good thing that he was able to feel like he kept hitting these milestones. But he was very proud of the work that we did.
He was eccentric, to say the least, but he was always in motion for art. He would bring back art from Cuba when he'd go there and sell it for the Cuban artists and send them money. And he would bring them paint supplies. I remember him asking me for any spare guitar stuff I had that he could bring, strings or anything that he could bring and give away. Mm-hmm. He was a pretty incredible guy. And like I said, he often made me crazy, but I never, ever did not love him. And the PA thing, he was so eccentric about the PA because he really didn't understand how they worked. He knew for actors, I think, but for bands, he didn't really understand the premise of it. And so he thought that if the microphone was in front of this monitor, that's the voice that's coming out of that monitor and no other voice. And so when I would come there with Debbie Davis and Alex and all these singers, that's how you would have to sing. And the singers would be like, I remember one Jazz Fest, big gig, expecting a lot of people, were setting up. And Debbie was a little nervous, probably already had 2 gigs that day because she worked so much. And she's setting wires and she said, "Hey, Paul, would you ask Dale if he could put all the voices in every monitor?" I turned to him like, "Deb, he's not going to do that." And Dale's like 10 feet away. And she goes, "Just asking for me." And I turn and go, "Hey, Dale, can you put all the voices in all the monitors?" And without even looking up on the board, he goes, "No, Paul." I said, "No, Deb."
Right.
He's not going to do it.
So
that sounds more like family, man. That doesn't sound like a friend. Somebody who can tell you that you left after your gig, that's family. Somebody's going to be straight honest with you.
He was like that. If he loved you, and it was hard. He'd tell me, like, I started having vocal trouble, and he knew it before I did. When the dystonia started coming on, he's like, "What's wrong with your voice? You're not singing right." And I told a story on Facebook, but I'll tell it now, and then we'll move on to the superhero review because I know you have to go. But when my second ex ghosted on me, I don't know what she said to my friends, but they all dropped me like a hot potato. Some of them wouldn't even return phone calls or emails. And I was feeling sorry for myself, and I was drinking way too much. And I showed up at Chikiwawa on a Sunday night, and the band had already finished. There was nobody in the club but the sousaphonist, Jason, who was leaving, said hello on his way out. And then it was just me and the bartender, and I'm doing shots. On a Sunday night, I'm just doing shots. And he comes up to me and goes, "What the fuck are you doing here?" I was like, I just wanted to drink. And I started to tell him, she left me, but they all left me. All these people I loved and sacrificed for, they all left me. And I started to cry, and he looked at me, and he grabbed me by the shoulders, and he had tears in his eyes. And he says, "I've been trying to tell you, they were never your fucking friends. Now go home."
Wow. Before we move on from Dale, I just want to say New Orleans is really going to miss Dale Trigara, and it's going to miss Chikiwawa and what he did
more
for
than
the
they
city
realize.
and for the musicians, and it's gonna be sorely missed
Yes.
moving forward. So
One more time to Dale Triguera.
to Dale Triguera.
You know. And whenever I go there to New Orleans and visit, and when I always go to Chiquiwawa, there's always this one painting in there that I always have to look at. It's like a painting of a young lady, and she has just like elongated neck, and I think she has like a collar around it, and it just always when I go, that's what
And
I
that was
remember.
a piece of the Cuban art he brought back, and he would show that piece off and say, hey, I got this in Cuba, and there's these artists, and they just,
Yeah, I mean, like I'll take whenever I go back and visit you guys, Paul, and everything, I'll take a picture. I'll be like, and I'll post it on Facebook. I'm like, hey, there's my buddy. Hello, I always say hello to her. And I have, of course, two little chickies here in memory of your friend Polly. Which like they said the name Wawa. So boom, we got Chicky Wawas right here. All right, this is staying with me. So anywho,
All right.
yeah.
I know you have to go today, Luis. We don't have you for the full show, so let's move on to your review.
Yeah, so
Now-
what are we going to talk about? Because Paul, yes,
Y'all
we can,
go ahead and talk about Loki. I missed it. It's my mistake. I missed the episode.
nah.
Well, yeah. Well, how about this? We don't have to touch too much into it, just for the simple fact that next week's the finale,
Right.
so you could get to catch up with it. Then, Paul.
I
And,
will say this: Mikey had me watch Alien, which I hadn't watched in 20 years, and I had forgotten a lot of it. I forgot the whole thing that they landed on the planet and all that stuff. It's for an old movie, which is an old movie. It's really
79.
good. I mean, it really stands up today.
Absolutely. In 1979, I mean, what is that? My goodness, is that 40-something-year-old movie that you can put next to any movie that was made in 2020 and go, it looks as good as these movies that we're making now.
The only thing about it, like as you pointed out, the only thing about it was that the crew members were all in their late 30s or early 40s, and the women were all in their 30s. And
but I
as you
think that's
said
a plus. Yeah.
Oh no, that's why it's great. You said if the movie
Right.
were made today, it would be a bunch of hot-bodied young actors, and you'd be watching it going like, "What are these fucking kids doing in space?"
Right. How did they get here? When did they start? When they were 15 or 12?
Right.
I mean, it's like, geez. These
Who was
days.
the actor in there? Harry Dean Stanton, right?
Yeah, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah, so he had, if you remember, he had an actual cameo in the first Avengers movie when Thor fell from in that container that was supposed to hold Loki or the Hulk, and he managed to get out, and it was the Hulk. It was the Hulk, or I think it was the Hulk, right? Yeah, it was the Hulk who crash lands, and Harry Dean Stanton finds him and asks, "Are you an alien?" That was a nod to the Alien movie.
Oh, that was him in Avengers?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. I didn't want to talk to you until you sort of changed from being green kind of thing, right? Where he was like going...
yeah, that's right. Are you an alien? So they did that on purpose. That was a head nod to the Alien movie.
Oh, that's funny. That's awesome.
I didn't
He was
even-
in it as well.
I didn't even realize that was him, to be honest with you. Now I got to go back and look at that scene and go, oh, that was Harry. And it probably was a cameo.
Yeah, and then Spaceballs, right? It was a John Hurt, right? The John Hurt who had the
Yes.
who had the
Really?
popper. He even did
He's in a
cameo
diner. It's towards the end of the movie. He's in a diner and he starts eating something and it starts
in
this.
Spaceballs.
Yes.
Spaceballs.
No.
That's
He
awesome.
Right.
made up his cameo in Spaceballs. Oh no, not again!
Not again. Right.
That show tune, "Hello, my darling." Hello, my baby. Hello, my
Yes,
darling.
it starts doing the frog, the dancing frog. It jumps on him and starts doing the dancing frog from Warner Brothers
Oh,
cartoons.
genius. That's all I gotta say. I don't know.
We used to love that the ragtime doll bit, the dancing frog from Warner Brothers. We used to make fun of that
Of
all the
course.
time.
Right.
Yes.
And then, I mean, again, of course, aliens had them go back to that planet, right? Where Sigourney Weaver's
Yeah.
like, "Are you guys nuts? What are we going? We gotta blow that place up. We shouldn't be landing on it." So then, I thought it was, Aliens 2 was great, and that still holds up just as much as,
I agree.
a lot of other
I agree.
movies.
It was great.
Well, once again, all of Jim.
Now,
Jim Cameron is another one who was like really Scott, just has that vision, and all of his early movies, The Abyss holds up.
yeah.
Terminator
Yeah.
2 holds up. I mean, people still talk about that second Terminator's. Those effects, are still
That's
state of the
really
art.
good. Oh, that did a trend set right there.
Yeah.
And and of course, you just gotta love how all these directors always put the same people in their movies, like Michael Behan and Abyss. You're like, wait, like he was in Aliens, he was in Terminator.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the biggest people that people like is I think Bill Paxton, because he fought a Predator, he fought
Yep.
Aliens, fought Terminator. Like Bill Paxton, one of the coolest guys in the world. I think Lance Hendrickson was also another one, but I always like to give that to Bill Paxton, because he's always, he was always in, like, he was also like a crewman in the Commando movie with Schwarzenegger, and he was also like in True Lies with Schwarzenegger. So
Yeah.
when the connections, and I like when people put their buddies into movies, and more so and more subtly when you just realized, just like in
Like,
He was
Christopher
he
Nolan,
was the
Michael
guy that
Caine.
they hired. He was the guy that they hired in the films to look heroic early, and he's the first one to freak out. We're not gonna make it, man.
Right.
dude, with the whole game over line, that was improv. They said that was just all improv. Everybody remembers the game over.
Yeah.
I mean,
Actually,
I
he's
have
a
to ask you something, Luis. The
Yeah.
big news on the social media this week was that Robert Downey Jr. stopped following the Marvel thread, or deleted himself from it, whatever that.
No, actually, wait. Let's clear this up. What actually happened was he seems to have. Now, I don't know. I didn't talk to Robert Downey before the show, but it seems like he's pared down his Instagram down to just a handful. He's got like 40 people on his Instagram. He didn't change anything on Twitter or any of that. Not. He just kind of cut his Instagram down some, and apparently they've read that as he's disassociating himself from the MCU, which
that's what people were saying.
Right. And I don't think that's like I said, I didn't talk to Robert this morning, but I think he just is trying to kind of maybe pull
We should
back.
call him.
Maybe we should. We go way back. We actually remember he's been to Cowboy Mouth shows and stuff. He was backstage.
Really?
Oh, it was Dash. Yeah, we hung out with him in Boston. And he loved some of the, like, Bill's sense of humor with, like, I think at the time we were making fun of, I can't remember, gosh, there was a few songs or whatever, but, Bill would always come up with some really snarky thing to make, take some pop song and snark it up or whatever like that. But he loved that stuff, and he was hanging out backstage with us in Boston, and just.
That's fun.
I mean, I think Robert Downey Jr. also has some of his own, what is it, things that he's working on as well. I mean, again, one thing's for sure though, if you think about what Marvel did to his career, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
2 or 4?
did 4 or 2, take your pick. I mean, at the time he was making movies like Charlie Bartlett or some movie that was like an indie movie, and Jon Favreau got him on the dirt cheap and said, "Dude, we can make Iron Man," and shit, that was the best thing he decided to do for himself, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
leaving us-
his post prison career was
Yeah.
a very different career, because he was a hot actor in the 80s.
Right.
Right.
The pickup
and-
artist. He was really charming, and
Yeah, and
mean,
the
even-
Marvel franchise, it definitely reinvented Robert Downey Jr.
absolutely.
and the panache with which he played Tony Stark was just perfect.
Yes,
Yes.
he was the perfect character. And by the way, I mean, he brought a lot of people on, like Mark Ruffalo. He says, "Dude, you got to come do this. It's so much fun." He's like, it's not only the movie's fun to make, but afterwards you're in an airport or something like that, and you're this character. He says it's a blast because you love it. He brought Gwyneth Paltrow in. I mean, she only came because of him, and I
Nice.
thought she was a great addition.
Oh,
as
yeah.
his,
Yeah.
and their chemistry was just so
Did
fun
you
to
see
watch.
Yeah.
Did you see that your buddy Johnny Favreau has he has a cooking show on Netflix,
No.
Does he?
and yeah,
But
Gwyneth
that
Paltrow-
movie Chef, he really got into cooking for a while.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
I mean, it was,
So they have Gwyneth Paltrow on this movie, on this TV show, and they asked her about a certain Avengers movie, and she goes, "I was in that movie." It's like, oh shit, man. Like half of these fanboys just watching this just went, "Ee!" We love you, like, ew, don't say those things. We love you. It's like, oh gosh. So yeah, she even did that line. Whether or not she was,
I saw an article about the Black Widow movie that's coming out. Apparently,
Yes.
the actor who played the villain, now So it's way after he made the movie and way after he collected his fat paycheck for making the movie. He did an interview saying how the Marvel movies are ruining the film business and how Scarlett Johansson, he couldn't understand why a great actress like her would be involved in this. And I was just like,
Steven Dorff, right?
Is that who it was?
No,
Was it-
Stephen Dorff. Okay, no, yeah, Stephen Dorff wasn't in Black Widow, but yeah, Stephen Dorff did say that. And for me, that he was the lead bad guy in Blade.
Right.
Okay, that's
right.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the lead bad guy.
Which is a
in
Marvel movie, technically.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, it wasn't back then, sort of. It was before pre-Disney. But here's the thing, man. I mean, people complain about people complain that there's comic book movies everywhere, right? 10 years ago, guys, as a fan, I'm going to call it 20 years ago. I was a fan for a movie that would come out as a comic book, right? We would get like these Robert Corman Fantastic Four movies, which I never got a chance to watch.
I don't think it was ever released.
Right, it was never released.
By the way, quick. Jim Cameron worked for Roger Corman. You do know that he was one of his. That's where he started. Before he got his chance to make movies, he was working with Roger Corman. He was a VFX artist and stuff like that for Roger Corman. Moving forward, sorry.
But so what I'm getting to the point is, it was Blade who also, then you have like your Superman movies, which was great, and then a lot of these flops, and then you have your Batman movie with Michael Keaton, which was
right.
fine.
Tim Robbins, right.
Right. So and it all goes dead for a while. Star Wars goes dead. Then Blade comes out, right? Blade came out in 1998, and Blade was amazing. You're like, wait, this is a superhero? He's killing vampires, right?
Right.
Who would've
Suddenly
thought?
people are like, wow, they can do all kinds of stuff in comic books, right? I mean,
then what happens is you got the X-Men that came out in 2000. Again, for what it is back then, for what it was, I was tickled pink that freaking Wolverine came out on the theater. And granted, he's taller than what he is in the comics, but it was great, right? So yeah, so then all these. So it's like, why hasn't horror movies ruined it? How come romantic? It's
Right.
I don't.
Right.
well, to be honest, Luis, I mean, people always, especially right now, it seems like everyone wants to complain about something, but we did have superhero movies in our own way, Die Hard and Rambo, and
action movies. They call them action movies,
but they're
right?
still action movies. Is the point? It's just
Yeah, he sounded like a bitter guy who doesn't get much work anymore.
Right.
yeah.
That's what it came
Yes.
down. I mean, like Emily Blunt, she said the same thing because people wanted her for Invisible Woman, and I'm like, listen, if she doesn't want it, fine.
Right.
Don't
Move
pursue
on.
her for it.
Right. It's not her
Right.
movie.
There's
It's not her
1,000
thing.
other actresses. I'm sure there's 1,000 other actresses who could do the job better and cheaper. It's like
Skeet and I were talking this morning. There's a movie right now called Tomorrow War, which is a fun movie. It's just a fun movie, right? I mean, if you sit there and you try to dissect it and go, hey, how does a plot hold together? Maybe not so great, but lots of action movies weren't about, you got to know what movie you're going to see. Am I going to go see a movie?
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to go see a fun movie, do we have to hold up everything that's fun about the movie because it may not happen in real life? I mean, it's like, it's just crazy to me.
A few years ago, the movie Brokeback Mountain had come out, and it was very controversial. The two cowboys were lovers and this whole thing. I'm sitting with some friends having coffee, and John Boutte, who always has a great phrase for everything, somebody turns to him, this intense discussion of Brokeback Mountain's going on. Somebody says, John, what did you think? And he sighs and he goes, I didn't like that movie, baby. And they go, no? He goes, no, not enough car chases for me.
Right. But I mean, that's the point, right? Everybody likes their own. I bet you if you took a sample of each one of our coffees, they'd be a little different. One's sweeter than the other. Another one's a little different. I mean, to each his own.
Luis is
He's
drinking
drinking milk. So there you go. He's not even drinking coffee. So
I need off the coffee, guys. That's all it is.
I understand. But we were kind of mentioning that, and just fun movies. Another thing that's kind of fun about that we kind of talked about is like nowadays. What are they calling it? Representation, right? So representation in movies and things like that. So, but this movie, The Tomorrow War, does it in a way that feels so natural that you don't pay attention to it. It feels like in movies that they feel like they have to point things out, or even in the marketing and things like that. But there's more main black characters than there are white characters in this movie, but it's not a thing. It's just sort of happens, and it feels natural to the story, and you know, I feel like when you're trying to preach instead of just go have fun, sometimes you sort of lose. It depends on what movies you want to go see. If people want to go watch movies like that, I get it. That's your movie, but you know, to put it in every movie and sort of put them in a blender and make all of them have to do this sequence of events is crazy to me.
Well, in the book Illusions by Richard Bach, one character's trying to explain to another one that he says your life is your movie to direct, to write, to star in. It's all yours. And the guy goes, well, if that's true, why do some people have such sad lives? And he goes, why do some people like horror movies? Why do some people like soap operas? Choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a good
Now, I have
point.
to ask you all this. Black Widow, I'm not going to be able to see that on Disney yet.
You'll be able to watch it tonight if you pay $30.
$30.
That's the charge.
Scarlett Johansson, she looks good in an outfit, but $30 worth.
That's why I'm going to watch the movie at the theater.
Now, yeah,
I
I would have done that with
Yeah?
I saw it last night.
Adam called me. Adam bought the tickets.
you. You saw it last night?
No. I'm going to go see it today. But you saw it last.
No, we saw it last night.
I saw it last night.
And all right, just
And?
quickly, you look. I'm not worried too much. Just tell me if you enjoyed it.
I liked it.
Okay, good.
Oh,
this
that's
is why
not
my-
enthusiastic. Oh,
This is why my eyes are bloodshot.
that was not an enthusiastic. I liked it.
Oh well, I'm trying not to see. I'm trying not to build it up for Mike. Okay, I mean,
Right.
how about this? Right now, the last time I saw, Rotten Tomatoes had it like an 83%, and that's a pretty good percentage,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's not one of the finer Marvel movies.
Right.
But
I didn't
it's
expect
not.
it to be. You know, a lot of the standalone movies are okay at best, right? I mean, there's you know.
So well, I'll tell you about this one then. This one had a more of a Mission Impossible feel to it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
That-
it has
yeah.
a different. Because here's the best part: Scarlett Johansson's like Batman, right? She got no powers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're doing a lot more story in this one. All the explosions happen towards the end of the movie more than throughout the movie.
Right.
They have a lot of fight sequences back to classic fighting because that's what Black Widow does.
But I like fight sequences like that. John Wick
No,
movies and
that's
right.
what I'm saying is like don't expect a Michael Bay kind of movie where everything's blowing up every 2 seconds. Things are blowing up, don't get me wrong, but they are building a lot into the story, right?
Right.
And of course because she has, you know, all these other supporting characters in the movie, they still had to build up some of those characters as well. And Scarlett Johansson was an executive producer to it, so if it also sucks, it's also on her, right? But it's a typical Marvel movie. You stay till the end of the credits, and it's a bonus, not necessary, if you watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Gotcha. Because I think what's her name shows up, Julie Louis-Dreyfus. I had heard.
I'm over here trying not to. I'm trying
Yes.
not to spoil it.
I'm sorry, but wait. I was going to say this about Black Widow. So the fight scenes, like that move, and I'm trying to think of what the stunt girl. I'm trying to remember her name, but that thing where she goes around and like sort of does a flip around their head and wraps her legs around their neck and flips them over. That was a stunt girl who came up with that sort of move. And so the fight scenes, yeah. God, what is her name?
I'm sure
But
she prefers stunt woman.
Shut up. It's stunt person. Okay, is that better? The stunt person. Now we don't know if she's a man or a woman, but okay. But the stunt person who did that, Holly. Gosh, what is it? Something money, right? It's money's in her last name. Anyway, she came with that whole move, but that was such a great move. You enjoyed watching the Black Widow fights from Iron Man 2 and stuff. Those moves are great. You like, and that's I love stuff like that. I mean, the John Wick movies. I love the John Wick movies. I don't need stuff blowing up.
I haven't seen one single John Wick movie. Should I watch them?
The first one is amazing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
The first one is
awesome.
amazing. Yeah, I think after that they're trying to outdo themselves each time, and it gets a little bit, you know.
Did you access my HBO Max yet?
I was afraid you were going to ask me about it. I can't figure it out. Every
Okay,
time
well,
I use the link you sent me, it
I
asks
got
me
a
if I want
minute.
to subscribe.
I got a minute, but so give it a try. It should work for you. but definitely do John Wick. Marvel's gonna come out with their What If cartoons. Polly, you gotta have to start eating that crow about watching cartoons, man, because that's gonna be pretty cool too. So
Right.
I gotta let you guys
I think
go.
that one might actually be fun because you'll recognize the voices, and what they're
Yeah.
doing is they're sort of just throwing. It's what if, right? So what if instead of,
What If.
I think Black Panther or T'Challa is going to be Star Lord. What if he
Exactly,
was
stuff
Star
like
Lord
that.
and things like that, right? So they're going to
Well,
put
gentlemen,
different
I gotta
characters.
go.
All right,
See you
Bye,
brother.
guys.
Luis.
You take
I'm at a
care.
hard clock. See ya. Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye. And then he's gone. Goodbye, Luis. But you know what other movie I just saw too was Monster Hunter, and it had some great scenes in it. It's Mila Jovovich. You familiar with her movies?
Yeah, of course.
And her and her husband, Paul W.S. Anderson, is the director and wrote it. But it's based off a video game as well, apparently.
Really?
I didn't know anything about the video game. Yeah, it's this big Capcom sort of new computer age 3D game. They build it in sort of the same kind of software I've been playing around in. And anyway, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it got a lot of flack when it came out as being a dumb movie or whatever.
It's
But
not a great title.
well, it's off of a video game. It's literally that's the name of the video game. So
Gotcha. So they named it after the video. Gotcha.
right.
Oh, well.
And
It's a great title, but a built-in audience.
And Ron Perlman's in it, so he has his little same old Ron Perlman doing the Ron Perlman bit. He's the captain of the ship or whatever like that. But it's a fun movie, and there's some great fight scenes in it, and there's some cool landscapes and nice monsters, and it's a movie, right? I mean, you don't go see a
Nice.
movie like Monster Hunter expecting to see A Few Good Men. I would hope. I hope if you go see Monster Hunter, you're not expecting some big dramatic scenes or anything like that. You're expecting a movie
Well,
about.
I had to ask you about Tomorrow World because it didn't get good reviews on my
They hate
Facebook
it.
feed.
The people hate, but
You thought it was fun.
it's a fun movie. I enjoyed it a lot, and apparently a lot of people are enjoying it a lot because Amazon
Well, I
was saying.
certainly have followed enough of Luis's recommendations that I can follow one of yours.
Well, didn't Luis say he liked it too?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to him.
Yeah, I know. I think he was with me on that particular thing. Me and Ski were actually talking about it this morning. Ski can be a snob sometimes about movies, and he enjoyed it too. And there's a few things that happen in the movie that you just don't expect. It goes a little bit. It caught me by surprise a few times, and was and that's kind of fun these days when you go, oh wow,
Yeah, sure.
I didn't see that coming.
I didn't see that coming. I love that moment in a movie, actually.
And it's
I was
harder
just
and harder
watching
to find those moments.
Yeah. We just watched something the other night, and it was one of those. Ooh, yeah, that's good. I didn't see that coming at all.
Right.
Because generally, I guess that's what you do. You're, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, generally you know where the movies are going, and even that can be fun, But when they surprise you, you go, look at that. Okay, wow, it didn't end the way I thought it was going to end. Woo. And then J.K. Simmons is in it, which was a surprise and
he's
kind of
great.
fun, right? And I even liked his little character and his little arc. And Chris Pratt is not the best dramatic actor, but he comes from Parks and Rec. He's a comedic actor. I mean, he's charm. He's about charm.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a good job on the movie.
I wanted to also mention, even though she doesn't watch our show, today's my wife's birthday. And
Happy birthday.
So
By the way,
yeah,
my wife
she
doesn't
took
watch
the
our
day
show
off.
either. She's like, I've got enough of you.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch you talk for an hour.
right, right. It's like it's nothing. We don't talk about anything here that I haven't talked about repeatedly with her.
Right.
She's heard our show for the last 4 years.
Yeah. I'm in 30 years, so, she's just like, yeah, I can imagine. I don't need you.
Wow, you and Kim are married 30 years?
Coming up, yes. Yes, it's been
That's beautiful, man.
I know.
Beautiful.
Isn't it nice? And I guess we were always destined to be because we still love each other, we get along, we understand each other, and there's nothing like having a partner in your life that you get and understand.
That's awesome, man.
Happy birthday! That's right. Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate you. And yeah, Jimmy. Just jumping back, he was talking about the Tom Jones moment when Tom Jones played on the stage at Chikiwawa. Dale videotaped it.
Oh, I remember that. Dale
Played that
videotaped
video.
it?
Yeah, we had it on his phone, and he played it for me. And I was like, "Why don't you ever send that out? That's awesome. Put it on Facebook or something like that." He goes, "Nah, that's for me. That's for
That's
me. And
that's awesome.
but he definitely showed it to me and said that, told me that Tom loved the place. He came in, he'd heard about it, and he came and sat and he was watching. I think John Cleary was playing, and at some point John Cleary invited him on stage, and he came up and sang a song, a blues song, and he didn't know. Apparently, he didn't know John at the time.
Really?
Yeah, so he's just like, but by the end of it, he's like, that guy could play, and all this stuff, and it was
Nice.
kind of it was a neat moment. I think it was during Jazz Fest, one of the times he played Jazz Fest.
When John Cleary first moved to town, I mean, it was this has been the 70s, or no, I'm trying to remember. I think, what band was it? Early 80s, maybe, late 70s. But Connie Atkinson was the editor of Wavelength magazine, which was the Offbeat. Yeah, it was a great magazine. It was like Offbeat, but earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so I used to go visit her, just like I used to go visit Jan Ramsey at her offices and just have coffee and bullshit about the scene. And I went to go see Connie, and we were talking, and she says, there's a wonderful young man in town from England. He's a piano player, and I really think you guys ought to put him in the band. And so I went back and I told Fred what she had said, and he goes, can't have piano in a rock and roll band. And so we never asked him. And that young man turned out to be way more famous than we were.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
worked with Bonnie Raitt, and I don't know. I'm sure he doesn't regret that we never asked him to join the Backbeats or the Cowboy Mouth, whatever it was. Might have been the
Right.
Backbeats. I don't remember. It's a long time ago.
Yes.
But anyway, and then of course, I'm like everybody else. I'm a fan of John's, and the few times I've been in his presence, I've been able to muster up hello and a short conversation because I know his wife, or I used to back in the 90s, whenever the fuck it was. But I actually am kind of starstruck when I'm around him. He's one of the greats.
Yes.
And he's a New Orleans great who chose to be a New Orleans great. They came from England. When I was touring England, I guess it was like 3 years ago, touring the UK, I was doing this show at a gorgeous barn in the middle of the country. I mean, I had to ride some dirt roads to get there, and it was incredible. But these two folks had converted it for 20 years, husband and wife. They started out living in one room, and then they spent 20 years making it into this big, beautiful performing place, as well as a house. And one of the guests that night was John Cleary's uncle, Johnny, who jammed on some rockabilly with me. It was really fun. He was a great old guy. I think he passed away last year, but man, we had a ball sitting around the kitchen table after the show, drinking and just strumming rockabilly, man.
I'm sitting here wondering right now, like how are we gonna, where are we gonna, thinking about Chicky Wawa and just where to play, and just how now suddenly there's, just one less venue that
the landscape had already changed anyway. People, friends of mine have, musician friends have said, hey, do you know about this venue or that venue? And I'm like, I'm not playing. I've done 3 gigs in the last 3 years, so no. And
Right.
it's like all these different places have sprung up during and post pandemic that are now having music. So,
But are they having cover bands, or are they having, because I see a lot of cover band activity running around.
no. I'm talking about friends of mine like Alex McMurray and
Okay.
Margie Perez. People that do original music and are New Orleans original musicians. There's new places, is what I've heard.
Okay.
I haven't investigated, but of course, Chicky Wawa was such a unique place. Dale, with his experience in the film business, working in set dressing and stuff, he'd acquired a lot of really cool, kitschy items that made the bar, what it was. And plus his taste in music, like I said earlier, to have the first time Joe Ely played there, and Joe Ely played there several times after the first time because he really liked the venue.
Mm-hmm.
I walked in, and Joe's a hero of mine since, the 80s. I mean, I love Joe Ely. So I couldn't wait. And I walk in, and it was one of those, like, I was really starstruck. I walk in Chicky Wawa, and it's crowded, and I was so in awe. I couldn't take my eyes off Joe, and I'm just kind of moving slowly towards him, like, Joe Ely, man. And I took a spot next to the soundboard by Dale, and he's up there smiling away, Dale, and I listened for a few songs, and I turned to him, and I go, I got to tell you, Dale, I have never heard your PA sound better than it does tonight. And he goes, you really like it? And I go, yeah. He goes, my PA's turned off. He's using that stick thing on stage. And he was traveling with the Bose stick and just plugged his guitar, had a mic, and you could hear him perfectly. But typical Dale, he didn't like get mad at me for saying it. He just used the irony to make fun of the moment.
Right.
But yeah.
By the way, I mean,
Yeah.
he had started moving stuff out of his storage place in his house because he was trying to sell his house, and the bar was full of all these trinkets and stuff that you were talking about. And things that he
Yeah.
picked up, and he would show me. I mean, he knew the story of where he got every piece, you know. And
Oh yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
sometimes I'd have to be like, "Man, I got to go. I'm so sorry," and because we'd be there for an hour, and he's telling me about some piece he got in Cuba, and the whole history, where it came from, and
Oh yeah. He loved that stuff, man. Absolutely.
he I now that I think about it, I feel like I'd love to figure out some sort of way to use that sort of as even a tribute. Maybe I'm just keep thinking of different ways to sort of to canonize or something after the fact, But they didn't want they're not going to have a big thing. They don't want to have because I imagine the musicians that would come out to support would be immense. I mean, but they don't want to do anything.
When you
like
say
that.
his family, what are you talking about?
His brother in New York and his girlfriend. Had both
Wow.
basically
Well, I
been
knew
here.
his girlfriend had been kind of taking care of him down here. I didn't know about his brother in New York.
Apparently,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was a great storyteller, man. I remember him telling me that when he was a young actor in New York, he really studied the craft and he was really trying to be serious about it. And he was playing this character who had a limp. And so he wanted to make it look realistic. So he put a stone in his shoe. And he's like halfway through rehearsals, he's like wincing in pain. And the director's like, Dale, what's wrong with you? And he goes, well, the guy, he's got a limp, so I'll put a stone in my shoe. And the director goes, take the stone out of your shoe and act.
Yeah, no method acting here. Come on. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah,
Somebody's talking about, yeah.
I asked him about the restaurant because he did have the restaurant for a while, and it was so funny because he goes, "Yeah, I tried that restaurant thing for a little bit, but." He goes, it's just a pain in the ass. I hate having to deal with that. He goes, it's hard enough to get a bartender, and I got to get somebody to come and cook. And people are sending shit back. Screw it. I'm not doing that again. So he had mixed feelings about the restaurant, but I bet you it was delicious. I wasn't around when he was. Doing
Throughout the
food.
history of Chihuahua, there were several different kitchens that came in there. I think the first was like, I don't know, pizza or something, but the guys that run Blue Oak Barbecue, they started out of Dale's kitchen in Chihuahua. And it was awesome to be able to go and watch a show and get some barbecue. And then there was another guy who's a chef now, and he had this thing called the sandwich he invented. And it was great food, man. It was some of the best sandwiches I ever had. In fact, he used something I said to him as a slogan in the club for a while. I took it with him when he left. It said, a sandwich you have with your acquaintances, a sandwich you have with your friends.
Nice. Have you seen that? They have a pizza place. I think it's called New Orleans Pizza, but it's inside the brewery house. It's on Chapatoulas. You know that New Orleans brewery house in Chapatoulas?
I got to tell you, man,
You haven't been out.
Pandemic, I got used to being home. And then
We saw it in an article. There was an article about the best pizza in New Orleans, and it was one of the places that were in it. I think it's called Nola Pizza. And so, we're like, look, it's right up. Let's try it. And so I ordered one and went and picked it up, brought it home. There's no delivery. You got to go pick it up yourself. Who knows? Maybe now they have delivery, but
that's one of the great things after Katrina is that pizza got better.
yeah.
Because I guess so many people from New York or other places moved down, but there's Pizza Delicious and there's Slice and there's places now that have what I call New York pizza,
Yeah, Mid-City Pizza is the same way. It's out of New York, but this place is really, really good. And their sauce has a little bit of a kick to it, which I like and I enjoy, It's got a little extra. So you eat a piece, and then 5 minutes later, you're going, woo, all right. That's
that's smart thinking for a brewery.
Yes, you're right. Let's just put this in the brewery.
That shit spicy.
And I wondered if it was just like they gave him some space, the brewery gave him some space, or what the deal was. But I do know, the place has always got tons. When I go to pick up my pizzas, there's people, waiting for their pizza. That place must be just
Really?
rolling. They're just cooking. They got like 6 guys working in the kitchen. So, look, some
I'll
people
have to
remember
try
that
it out.
barbecue. Yeah, it's worth
Oh yeah,
trying.
the barbecue. Well, Blue Oak. It was Phil. That was Phil Gusman that just posted that, and it's Blue Oak Barbecue, Philly. So next time you come to town, if you want to relive that barbecue experience, we'll head to the Blue
So
Oak
where's
on
Blue Oak
Carrollton.
at now?
It's on Carrollton Avenue. You know where Parkway Tavern is. You know the bar on Carrollton, right
Yeah,
before you
yeah.
get to City Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's next door. It used to be an abandoned gas station.
No
And then
kidding.
I think it was a restaurant actually for years, but I didn't care for that restaurant. I can't remember the name. They had good shakes, but that was about it. And then the Blue Oak guys opened it up. I guess they've been open now 4 years probably.
You know what I haven't? I've only been to a few times, and I haven't been since I've been back. Is Katie's, and
I go to Katie's often. I just went there last week with some friends from Los Angeles.
really,
But the
so
owner
good.
Scott's a friend of mine, so it was like eight of us, and I called him ahead of time. And by the time we got there, he had a table waiting. Greeting us himself. He's a great host, and they were all impressed with me. They were like, "Oh, look, we got first class service because of Paul." I'm like, "No, you got first class service because of Scott."
Right. I remember Scott. Scott used to big Cowboy Month fan and stuff, right? I mean,
He was a really big Cowboy Math fan. He actually went on the road to see us in Chicago and Los Angeles and all kinds of places.
yeah.
He's
Did he have
he
Parkview or
like he
something?
like us has gotten older now.
Ah, gotcha. But he's still, obviously Katie's made it through Katrina, thank goodness.
Oh,
Because I mean,
he works like a dog. I don't think he parties like he used to, but he works like a dog. He's got 3 restaurants. He caters events. With Saint. People hire him. He's a hard worker, and that he even stopped by Katie's to say hello was
right.
really special. And then my friend that was with me, his old friend of mine, Laura Lancaster, and she really wanted a box. She's from New Orleans. She's in town from Los Angeles, and she really wanted a box. So when she ordered, the waiter goes, "Oh, we're out of box. I'm really sorry." And she went, he goes, "You want a Coke or something?" She goes, "No, I was dying for a box. I just got to town. I want a box." And Dale overheard, and then the waiter comes to the table. He goes, Dale, I call him Dale. Scotty overheard, and the waiter comes to the table. He says, "Scott went to go and get some barks. We'll have it here in a few minutes." He ran
Oh,
out.
wow.
Yeah, man. He ran out and bought a case of barks so she could have a couple of barks root beers.
Like you said, that's a host, man. That's a
That's
host.
a,
You
yeah,
come in my
absolutely.
restaurant, you're gonna leave happy with the experience that you wanted, and
Yeah,
that's why Katie's beyond the food. My God, the food is so
yeah. The
good.
food's awesome. Yeah.
And I mean, I think you gain 10 pounds just walking in the door, though. Um, you have to be careful because you don't
There
even
are
have
no small portions. There's no small portions.
right. You be ready for the box to take the box with you, and and just know, just walking in before you even take a bite, you've gained 10 pounds. So just be
Oh
ready.
yeah,
You'll be working it off, but it's so delicious.
yeah. It really is.
What's JC was saying that the best pizza in Florida is in the freezer section at Walmart. Uh,
Oh wow, that's tough.
that's tough. But at least you can get barks in the bottle at Walmart. I guess you can. I've noticed that. I mean, between the Cokes with the sugar in them, I guess they call them Mexican Cokes, and then the ones made in Mexico, right, where they have real
Yeah.
sugar. You can get those in the bottle, and you get barks in the bottle at Walmart now. And here, I just don't know if you can get it in other places.
I buy my barks in a bottle at Langenstein's.
Oh yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I bought a case of it when I was going to Sam's when I first got here because I was a big Sam's guy. I could get a case of it for $14 at Sam's. Can you beat that?
I got no issue with Sam's.
Right.
Walmart, another story.
Walmart's another story. Well, I will say this. You're right about Sam's is sort of like Overstock.com, right? I mean, you never know. You can't get the same thing a month later because there's no telling if it's going to be there or not because but it's real stuff generally.
It's
They
funny. I
generally,
really don't hear people talk about Sam's as much as Costco anymore.
I know, because Costco's the cool new thing, but trust
They
me,
also
Sam's
pay
has got
well.
plenty of business. Yes, and they do pay well. And I don't know what the story with
They
Sam's
don't
is.
pay- I don't know what the story is with Sam's either. So I'm not saying Sam's doesn't pay well. I don't want to say
Right.
that.
We don't even know. We have no idea.
Well, I don't know.
There were no Costco's in Nashville. Well, actually, I lie. There was one. It was on the other side of town, though. And
And when you say the other side of town in Nashville, that's a wholly different thing than the other side of town in New Orleans.
yeah, no, it
Nashville's
was.
brawling.
Yeah, and you've got like 6 different interstates that you're running through, right? It's like I had to like take the 40, and I had to hit the 65, and then
Oh
from there
my
you got to
God.
jump on the 240 just to get to
Not to
to
mention, you have to find a time of day to do that when the traffic in Nashville isn't.
Yeah, especially where the interstates converge, it's always a mess, right? Of course. So, and they converge all over town. So you're driving,
Yeah.
everything's good, and then you're screwed. And then you start getting
Yeah.
going again, and then you're screwed again. And
It's just
you
one
better
of
be
those
looking at
cities
a
in
damn
America
map.
Yeah,
Because
it's
you'll
one
get
of those
lost
cities
in
in
the
America
interstate.
where you just have to. You have to if you're driving through it, and it's not an actual stop. Plan on driving through at 2 and 3 in the morning. You know.
Right. Yes. I mean, I hear Houston has gotten ridiculous, and we know Atlanta. Forget Atlanta.
Oh
Like
my
you
God.
got to drive through Atlanta.
Houston's been ridiculous forever, man. I mean, like literally Cowboy Mouth, and I've been out of Cowboy Mouth 15 years now. We would plan, unless we were playing Houston, we always planned to go through at 3 in the morning because the traffic was outrageous. We played
Right.
Houston often, but we didn't play there every single time we headed west. Yeah.
Was it Fitzgerald's in Houston? Is that the name of the place?
Yes. Yeah, scary. Like Fitzgerald's was a great rock club because you never knew if it was going to go up in smoke.
Right.
It was wooden. It was ancient. Shit was not wired properly, but it had a great vibe, and we did some killer shows there.
I do remember just walking on the steps to go. I remember we had parked, and I had to go up and down the steps in the front. And every time I took a step, I thought I was going to go through the damn stairs. You know, it
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
that place was scary, and they had people everywhere. Nobody, you know, it was crazy.
It was popular. They would pack them in. It was, but the construction was definitely sketchy. You got nervous when you played there.
So, and it's been closed for a while, right? Fitzgerald's, I believe.
I haven't been to play in Houston since I left Cowboy Cloth. But I did hear it closed.
Yeah, I heard the
probably a
same.
lot of changes. You know, there was the Satellite Lounge. There was Rockefellers. There was some great venues in Houston back in the 90s and 80s. I don't know what it's like now, you know.
Yeah, me either. And I mean, obviously, the Cotton Club closed in Atlanta a long time ago, so I didn't know
Long time ago.
Right, I didn't know what was going. And I remember when we were there, they kept having issues with, I think some son of a congressman had gotten drunk and died on a DUI or something like that. You know, he was driving home and all of a sudden,
And naturally, it was the bar's fault.
Of course. So the bar,
Not the
I remember,
congressman.
right? Who went there, got drunk, left drinking, but it's the bar's fault.
I mean, yeah. And then you're a congressman. Teach your son not to drink and drive.
Yeah, you know, they just give these kids a sense of entitlement, you know, half the time. I've never understood that.
I'm not one to talk about drinking and driving. I grew up in New Orleans, and in my youth, I probably got behind the wheel at times when I should not have.
Right.
But in fact, I think I told you this story when we were filming in my backyard, but I was working on this movie. What movie was it? It was Beyond the Groove, which has the greatest stories of my life in it. Craziest shoot I ever went on. But it was the rap party, and it was a second floor club on Bourbon Street that I don't remember the name of, the 911 Club or something like that, but it was second floor on Bourbon Street, and they had a band playing. And at some point, I was much more of a drunk back then, and I'd had a few, and they all like, Paul, get up and play with the band. So I get up on stage with my guitar and plug in, and I make up a blues song about this Australian lighting guy who was on the movie, long hair, blonde guy, like Thor, you know. And I make up a blues song about him and the 3 women he's been sleeping with during the course of filming, and none of them knew it. I'm so drunk, I'm just singing this guy's details, you know. And afterwards, the women were furious with him, of course. And I went to him and I was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry. I was drunk and I did that. And he goes, I fucking loved it, mate.
Your sister just mentioned Dallas traffic, but I'll be honest. My experiences in Dallas, like we were always in the Deep Ellum, and it was never that bad. Like I never really had major.
Dallas traffic does not compare to Houston traffic. I've had some traffic in Dallas, but nothing like Houston. I say Houston, L.A., San Francisco,
Atlanta, yes.
Atlanta. Oh my God. I went through Atlanta the first time in 1977, I think. And the interstate's been under construction ever since.
Well, yeah, now they got like 8 lanes. There's like 8 lanes, and they still can't. Right? They still can't get people through that. I don't get it. It's like I've never seen so many lanes.
Parking lot at rush hour.
Right. It's like, what are you guys doing? Y'all need to figure something out because, my goodness.
I don't know.
I mean, 8 lanes looks like a parking lot to begin with. It's like, how can we not drive through a parking lot and see?
I mean,
crazy.
is it not possible to get around the city of Atlanta without getting on the interstate? And everybody has to take that thing, so
I
it
get-
needs I don't know.
I don't get it either.
I thought about living there after the flood. Sonia Tetlow lives there, and she's one of my dearest friends in the world. So I thought maybe I'll live near Sonia. After 2 days of looking around Atlanta at places to live, I was so frustrated by the traffic. I'm pretty sure I was cursing at people in the traffic. And I was like, no fucking way am I living in this town, man.
Right. Life's too short, man. I can't spend 2 hours getting 15 minutes. I could walk faster. Are you kidding me? No, I don't think so.
Well, I have a friend out in LA, Jill Alleman.
Uh-huh.
And so went out there one time to visit, and Jill's like, oh, this great New Orleans band is playing at such and such a venue. We should go. And so-and-so's also playing, but I really want to see these guys. I'm like, okay, well, let's go. We went and saw them. And I look at my watch after the show, because the show's in LA and pretty early. And I'm like, hey, we got a lot of time. You want to go see that other band? And she just starts cracking up. She goes, this isn't New Orleans, Paul. Clubs are not 5 minutes away from each other.
Right.
It would be 45 minutes before we got there, and they won't even be serving drinks by the time we get there.
Plus, the other problem with LA is, and I guess somewhat with Atlanta too, but it's so big. I mean, like when we drove in and we're driving down the interstate, we came in at like 3 a.m. the first time I went to LA. It was, I guess, in the 90s, and we hit the LA city limits, and I'm thinking, hey, 40, 45 minutes maybe tops. I look at Hokey, I was like, what do you think, 45 minutes? He goes, no, we got 3 hours to go. And I'm like,
yeah,
come on, man, are you kidding me? And he goes, no. And I mean, it's nighttime. We're driving. It's not like it's traffic. It's just,
no, it's
so
sprawling,
big. Yeah.
Whenever I fly into LA, I'm always just like stunned at how the sea of humanity beneath the plane. It's as far as the eye can go.
Right.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot.
I'm a New Orleanian, man. Like you look at the city of New Orleans skyline, and you go, we don't really live in a city. We live in a large neighborhood.
Yes, comparatively. I mean, like, I think if, we're the O in Orange County, New Orleans is just like the O. That's it.
Like I've said before, when I moved up to New York, I was like, oh, I get New York now. Every neighborhood is like the city of New Orleans. You never leave your neighborhood. You stay in your hood. There's restaurants. You got community. But it's there, man. But if you went to New York, you would find 10 different New Orleanses.
But the fun thing about New York is it's just stacked, right? So it's not so sprawling. Like that's why there's so much walking and cabs. Nobody really has cars.
I do like that. Yeah, I love being able to walk. And of course, when I was going to New York with the Mouth in those days, Griff and I always traveled with fold-up bikes. Mm-hmm. And then when I didn't have my fold-up bike, I had rollerblades. And man, the bus would stop at the hotel, and before the tour manager had us checked in, I was gone on rollerblades in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. I freaking love it.
Yeah. I like that better.
He was terrified of me zipping in and out of traffic on skates. But, I had a need for speed, man.
Yeah, you do have a reputation for being clumsy at times. So I'm sure he was like, oh my God, he's on skates, he's going through Manhattan. Either he's going to get killed by somebody or, run over by a car.
I have to say, Mikey, I was unaware of my reputation for clumsiness.
Oh, were you? Gotcha. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, my wife teased me about it, actually. She says I'm a bull in the china shop. I'm always breaking shit.
I know both you and I think that we're like cats, right? We're like, we're like cats, but we're not. We're not cats. No.
We're oafs.
We're Shreks. We're not cats. We're a bunch of Shreks.
Right. Shrek is a good comparison, really.
Atlanta, proof that more lanes does not help traffic. Yes, I think anyone who's building an interstate should go and study Atlanta and try to figure out what is the deal here. Because
they should study it as a lesson in what not to do.
Right. Apparently, making more lanes does not help. You can make as many lanes as you want. Not going to help you.
Not going to help in Atlanta.
Nope. I remember riding around drinking with John, Paul, and Fred when I was underage. The 80s. You running around with a kid drinking underage? What's wrong with you?
Who is that?
Sean Gwynn.
Sean
Gwynn, Gwin, is what he's got on his Facebook page. I'm not sure. Whatever, the YouTube thing.
I wonder if that was Fred's friend.
Maybe.
They worked for us for a while. I was thinking of him the other day. I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, well, we did drink and drive in the 80s and 90s. I know. I'm not lecturing. I'm saying it's a bad idea.
Yes, we're going to subtly say, it's funny.
Well,
we
that's
mentioned
not,
that.
I hadn't finished that story. The
Okay.
gaffer, so I make up the song and the gaffer loved it. And I go to leave and we're on the second floor and there's this narrow wooden staircase that leads downstairs. So I turn around, and you mentioned my clumsiness. I turn around in my drunken state and people are clapping because I just sang and I'm embarrassed because I'm so fucking drunk. So I want to get out of there before I pass out. And I go to wave goodbye, but my guitar was in my hand. So drunk I forgot. And when the guitar went up, it just went behind me. And I tumbled down the stairs with the guitar, the whole like head over heels. And I land at the bottom and stand right up. And when I do, the party is like at the stairway looking down at me with big eyes like, is he alive? And I just pop right up and go, thanks again, going home. I get in the car, my 1977 LTD, two-tone blue and white with the opera windows, giant car. And I drive home so fucking drunk on Wild Turkey that somebody should have stopped me. I remember pulling up to my house in Mid-City and thinking to myself, I wonder if I hit anybody on the way home. That's how drunk I was. And then I opened the door of the car and got out, and the cold night air hit me, and I threw up. Just threw up. And I go inside, and it turns out I've given myself alcohol poison. I'm supposed to be flying out the next morning to LA with the movie. My first gig out in LA, and I wake up and I'm too sick to fly. And I call them. I'm like, man, I'm got fucked up at the rap party. I can't. They were so cool. They actually said, we'll change your ticket. Can you fly tomorrow? And I said, I'll be on a plane. So they brought me to LA because me and my friend Dickie promised that we knew LA. And I sort of knew LA because my friend Laura lived there and Vance lived there. I had never been there. I knew it through them vicariously. So we get there and they send me to pick up the actor who lived in Laurel Canyon, and I'm supposed to drive to Griffith Park. And if you know LA, you can do that fairly simply by not taking Laurel Canyon Road, which will take you an extra hour. And so I did. And we get to set, and the director's furious with me, and the actor just goes, no, it was a pleasant drive. Don't hassle him. He gave me a nice ride. So they go, all right, Paul, just go back to the office and get the pages for the day. And I was like, okay, what's the address? And they give me something on La Jolla. So I'm driving, and I keep turning around, making a U-turn at the same intersection, and I know I'm late, so I pull over to a payphone, because this is pre-cell phone, and I call the office, and I say, hey, man, I am following your directions to a T, but when I get to the intersection you say that you're on, there is no street called La Jolla. There's some street called La Jolla. And the girl at the office started laughing, and she goes, that's great, Paul. Just follow La Jolla, and you'll get to it. So on the first day, I blew my cover that I knew LA because I couldn't pronounce La Jolla.
Right.
It was La Jolla.
I was the same way. I was walking up, thinking, yeah, what is this? I think I actually made the connection at some point, though. I didn't have anybody to call to remind me, but it was half an hour at least before I realized, oh, this is right.
Well, thank God for Google Maps, because the Thomas Guide, which every LA person swore by, like, do you have a Thomas Guide? No, I'll go buy a Thomas Guide. I got to have a Thomas Guide. It's just freaking this thick, man. It's like it's like a Bible of how to get around LA.
Right. You're like, yeah, this is not going to be a one-day thing.
Yeah. Anyway, our time is up, Mikey. We're 2 minutes over. Yeah. And officially, we are 2 minutes over because we started on time today.
We actually started on time today. And, once again, one more time for Dale and the family, and hoping that wherever he is right now, he's looking down and he's happy, and maybe he's getting to star in some big production, wherever he's at right now. Because I know.
Well, I guarantee you, wherever he is, he's drawing people to him for his production.
Yes, he is. He's putting something together. He's got something in the works, wherever it is, and it's going to be a big deal.
All right, buddy. Have a great weekend.
You too, and I hope you have. I guess we'll figure out Monday when Monday happens. One day at a time, right?
What's Monday? Oh,
I don't even know.
What do you mean? We don't have guests anymore, right?
No, we don't. I said that. I'm just saying. Wednesday's guest day, but we'll be back Monday as far as we know. I'm sorry, didn't mean to throw you.
As far as we know,
as far as we know, we will be back on Monday. But I'm gonna go. I will have seen. What will I have seen? Oh, Black Widow by then. So I know you won't. But
I would have gone with you if it wasn't Allison's birthday.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe we can go another day. we'll
I
figure
could
it
try
out.
and convince her to go see Black Widow for her birthday, but I don't think I would be successful.
You know what? I don't even think you should try. I'll be honest. I think you should just let that go.
He doesn't. I had her. What movie did I have her watch? I tried to get her to watch The Matrix because she's like, I haven't seen it. It's a classic. You got to see it. And we sit down, and about 15 minutes into the movie, she goes, "My son Brian would love this." I was like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, I don't."
I don't. Right. So yes, you gotta. Yeah. No. We're not going to take her to go see Black Widow. But over the weekend or something, maybe next week, maybe we'll figure out a time, go see it. It's because that's a boy thing, right? It's like bowling. We'll go see movies. You and I, we don't bowl. We go see movies. No. So we'll have a movie night.
Especially after the pandemic. Can you imagine sticking your fingers in a bowling ball now?
Oh no! Those places were gross before.
A bowl, it's going to have to be with a latex glove.
Right. And those places were bad before the pandemic. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so. I mean, you're putting on somebody else's shoes, you're sticking your hand in somebody else's ball. Who knows where that hand's been?
Not to mention, you ever notice that when you sit on those benches or whatever like that, you get up and you're sticking, and it was, yeah. Anyway,
all right, Mike.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys all next week.
We're
gonna play some music. Goodbye.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum. Well, we used to be like that, but now we're like this all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.